All right, it's the one and only God Johnny, and we have.
Tamia.
All righty, and we're here, man. 5D transformations. Wanted to do a quick video and touch on something that I think we all are aware of in the modern culture, and it's about the news. And essentially, I wanted to just talk about the news. What was the title? What was the?
Why the news is a scam.
Okay, okay. Why the news is a scam. So that's kind of a big statement, right? I'm not going to say all news is a scam. But what I will say is the thing about mainstream news, it has some aspects to it that are that just has a lot of propaganda, um, as a lot of people might think. And I know a lot of people. We grew up. I grew up in an era where your parents kind of just watched the news. Like all parents watched the news as if that was like the adult thing to do. Like it's like once you turn over 25, like you're watching the news all of a sudden. Like, and then I kept growing up, and I'm like, oh snap! Like me and my friends ain't watching the news, and we getting older and older. So what's going on? Is it a shift in the culture? What is it? But the big thing about the news that I want to give you as an insight from a 5D level, right, is to understand this one thing, which was a realization for me about the news. And what that involved is just understanding that when you look at true information, when you look at stuff that is a fact, when you look at information that is timeless, things like the universal laws or, just truths that last through time, what you'll notice is that, you know, they are there and they last forever. You know what I mean? Or they're there and they apply no matter what's going on. So even if you take it back to some old, like the Bible has some good passages in it. Whether you're a Christian or not, it doesn't really matter. Like just certain uh, things that are in there, like what do they say? Judge yourself before you judge others. Some of this stuff isn't even in the Bible. Some of these are just simple, just truths. Or like take a stick out of your eye or a log out of your eye. As you can know, I haven't read the Bible enough. So, but let's get back to normal truths. Like I could say something like this, like you must believe, you must follow your heart, or um, something like gravity. That's like a law. Like if you jump from a building,
Yeah, like what goes up must come down.
Yeah, what goes up must come down, right? Unless you do something to go against that, right? So physics and things like that. Now, when we start talking about the news, the whole premise of the news, it has a corporate agenda behind it, meaning that it has to produce money. It has to keep people entertained or engaged. It has to keep people stuck to the TV. So as a result, there's this thing we have to keep generating new information. And that's my problem with the news, is that every day they have to give you something new to pay attention to, right? So if you look at the word news, it has the word new in it. So the news essentially is all about what's new. So what game happened today, that's the main focus. And then next year to be some other news, and then you'll have the news say, hey, the coronavirus is here, and then we have a vaccine, and then you'll have some news later, the vaccine is messing up, and then some people might say, well, the vaccine works now, and then it's the premise of news is about what's new information. But if we look at what's new, that's more so connected to trends, to fads. If you look at like Twitter, you'll notice like on the Twitter streams that like it's about what's popular right now. You know what I mean? You can't talk about something that's weeks old or months old or a year old unless it might apply to now. Like, oh, it's the 1 year anniversary, or let's take a look back at this for a second. And what that does is, I understand if you're watching that for entertainment, but if you're looking at that to be the source of truth that you go to figure out what is what in the world, they got you like mind control, because they're not really telling you what you need to know or what's good for your mind, your soul, your spirit. They're just telling you what's the newest drama right now. and that's what's driving that industry. And I heard a person once say that like like sex sells, blood. Like I forgot the exact word, but it was like blood. Like it's known within the the what do they call it, like media and news and the people who are in journalism, that like blood sells, and like things that make you have to look. Like if we look at what makes somebody look at what's going on in the news, it's generally something fear based, or uh, something there to like speak to your reptilian brain, that that side of you that is impulsive, and they feed off that to keep your attention on them. As you know, where attention goes, energy flows. They harness that energy, and they're making all of that money. So they're pumping you news to keep you busy, but it's keeping you busy, but is it really educating you? So that's my big thing with the news, is that word new. It's more focused on what's new versus on what's really there to inform you holistically. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking 4 minutes, so Tammy, let them know what's your thing about the news and it being a quote unquote scam.
My thing would just be how the news is perpetuating, and it's a lot, like you said, it's very fear based.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, well, just anything is very fear based because they're always showing like, like this person got robbed, or this person died, or this car accident, or this happened, whatever. But I feel like, especially with the news today, with politics, the stuff that are going on within politics and coronavirus and the pandemic. When coronavirus first hit, um, at least the United States, it was very wild. And I remember posting something. I can't remember what I posted, but I was saying, like, I felt like the media was blowing it out of proportion. Like everybody was in stores, like buying things in bulk, like the world was about to end,
People
and
forgetting about that.
toilet paper. It was like, now it's like a whole year later, and it's like, not that things are back to normal, but it's like you can go to the store and get whatever you need. Like we're not out of toilet paper anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff. And anyway, I had just posted something, just like, I just feel like the media is blowing it out of proportion. And then someone just commented back, like, basically they just felt like that's what the media had to do so that it would get people's attention. And my point is just like, I feel like we can educate and get people's attention with stuff without having to pump a lot of fear behind it. So that's kind of my main thing with that, because fear keeps you in a survival mode. Like it doesn't allow you to be your truest self. It's very survival based. It's very low energy. Yeah, and the news is very low energy. Anytime you watch it, they're not really telling you anything good. There might be some random stories, or like, I don't know. I don't really watch the news. I don't know what they have on that actually. But it's like, it's just a lot of fear I see that is being pushed out, and it doesn't really serve anybody. Like, what is this information going to do? A lot of this information is not really relevant to you, but now it's in your subconscious mind, you know?
Yeah.
So now you're going around the world fearful of, like, let's say like planes, for example. Like they always show when a plane crashes, and it's like people have a fear of planes just because they see it in the news, but plane crashes really happen very rarely compared to like just regular accidents, like car accidents and stuff like that. But just because that's what they show, some people have a certain type of fear associated with that. So
man, that's powerful. It is definitely very low vibrational, and it's like that on purpose, because we got to look at the people who own these news stations. And the reality is, when we look at America, it's almost like America has systemized its processes for other countries to follow. To see second and third world, quote unquote, second and third world countries have the news as well, and they follow a similar model, but they make money off of views.
yeah.
So they have to keep you looking. And if everything's chilled and relaxed, at a certain point in time, they realize that drama and fear has more people pay attention. And at times they'll exaggerate situations in order to keep that story. Like the number one story, if you're a journalist, you have to find the juiciest story, which means you have to find the most craziest, most drama-filled, most ridiculous off the wall thing to keep the common person's attention. We've been so desensitized, especially with social media. Every day you're looking at completely outrageous things. And so with the news, it's pushing that narrative, and it's meant to keep you, on your toes, right? And just a really powerful thing I saw yesterday. I'm not sure if people have heard something like this before, but it was just the idea that, you know, what was it? What was it? Oh yeah, let's say you had like $650 million, right? And let's say you spent $10. Let's say you lost 10 of those dollars. And let's say you had 649,999, or 90,000, whatever. And well, they were like, that's how many seconds you have in a day. It was somewhere, I don't know exactly how many seconds. It was something like that. A lot of seconds. All right, a lot, millions of seconds, thousands to millions of seconds. I think it was millions. Anyways, they were like, okay, would you be upset that you lost $10? You know what I mean? If no, but then let's say uh, out of those 650 whatever seconds you have, I completely just messed up the thing. What was it? $650 million. If you lost 10, it wouldn't matter. Now let's say you had 650 something seconds. Would you be mad if 10 seconds didn't go the way you wanted them to go? You know what I mean? If they were negative, but the rest was good. So I feel like with the news, we emphasize those 10 seconds or that minute or that, you know, that moment that was so negative, and shine such a light on it. And we miss out on all the rest of the time where things are going good. And as a result, I think it creates an atmosphere where we're not able to really see all of the positives because we're so focused on that one negative or that one situation that's bringing us down. And we all got to deal with that in our personal lives. Those little things that bother us. We're all in the same world together. We know that there's struggles, but it would be nice to see a narrative that was a little bit more holistic and well-rounded, more solution-oriented versus fear-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine if a lot of this time during the virus, they're reporting all these people dying and all these people going through this and all these people going through that. And a lot of the people I know in their everyday life is not necessarily as crazy. And what if they spend more time just showing you, like, okay, we have this amount of scientists that are working on different ways to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Some with natural remedies, some with maybe different kinds of remedies.
Yeah. Or but like, even if they showed, like, especially during this past year with, coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter thing, and then Kobe, like, there was just so many random things, that happened the past year, and everybody was just like, 2020 was the worst year, blah, 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 like, all this stuff. But what if they show the other aspects of people who now had time to be at home, who got time to pause, who got time to put their attention onto something else, who, like, people who get to spend time with their families. I feel like there's a lot of other things that came out of, just for example, this past year, that were kind of positive, especially just showing, like, okay, people can work from home and it still works, just showing the positives of that instead of, like, being like, oh, we need to get back to the workforce, blah, 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 blah. Like, I felt like as much as there's bad, there's always good, it just has to be balanced like that. Mm-hmm. And it was just very much one-sided. And I think it just kind of goes with that saying that you were saying, if it was like they let those 10 seconds or that moment or that day dictate the whole year or the whole month, when there's a whole bunch of other things happening, and people who are very caught up in the news and in the media, they begin to see their lives through that lens versus being able to separate what is going on in the collective and then what is going on within themselves and their own world also.
Exactly. So, I mean, the reality is, man, the news is pure mind control, agenda pushing. There's people that are higher up that it's a monopoly, basically, when it comes to who owns that kind of media. They all follow the same manuscript. They all tell the same stories. And I just want to highlight, closing out, like, YouTube changed the game. Alternative media sources changed the game. Even Twitter, like, you go on Twitter and you just because of the internet, you're able to see a guy that would have never had a voice, or a woman that would have never had a voice, be able to show off her dancing in a way that's so unique and everyone's going crazy, or show off their workout routine, or, you know, you start to realize, like, it's a bigger picture than what they're showing us in the media. There's a lot of us, like me and yourself, you know, that get it, that know that there's a lot of BS. You know, a part of my enlightenment process, it would have not happened if it wasn't for certain individuals putting information out there, you know, with their words to enlighten the world through these alternative media sources. They could never have gotten on Fox News or CNN. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You got to be some big rock star that's a part of the circle to be able to speak on that level. But now there's some independent people, you know, even on like YouTube, or, you know, doing more numbers than a lot of these news stations by themselves. Whenever they clock in, they got 1 million subscribers, people ready to watch. And that's the power, and that's why things are changing. So we got to take back our power when it comes to the news and become our own news, because guess what? You got eyes outside of your neighborhood. You know, your perspective matters just as much as that one dude on CNN. I forgot his name. I'm horrible. The one dude on CNN all the time talking. You know what I mean? Whoever they are. Like, forget these people. Like, these people don't even share your experience. You know, so you're the mouthpiece for your environment. You know, if you feel there's something wrong in the world, you got the right to say that and the right to speak up about that, because you got eyes just like everyone else. There should never be one story that dictates the masses. And when the masses are buying into one story, they're simultaneously ignoring millions of other stories. Yeah. You know, and that's how you begin to have indoctrination. People become stuck in documents, become stuck in what they're watching. You know, and we're here to end the manipulation. So, you know, I'm loving this right now. You know, since the 2020s, we've been pushing forward, you know, from 2021, 22, 23, 24. You know, it's like things are changing. They're going to keep changing because this news is going to have a hard time feeding you this BS, you know. And the last thing I'll say is there's also a responsibility for alternative media to still be balanced, because we're seeing a lot of people buy into a lot of random information as well. So sometimes alternative media can be just as bad as regular media, because they're not fact checking, they're not providing sources, they're just believing what some dude is saying on the middle of a camera. So I would always tell y'all, you know, don't believe whatever I'm saying at face value, or what I'm guessing you're saying, or whoever is online is saying. You know, you could tell by their vibration a lot of the time, but I've seen people get manipulated by leaders who share their news because, you know, they put so much faith in these people. And we got to realize, man, like, do your own research. You know, my goal is just to stimulate the mind. Like Tupac said, I just want to light something in your mind and you can run with it. You know, you're the ultimate determinator of what truth is and what the news is for you. You know, but it is still important to give people an opportunity to think for themselves. And if they can't get different information and hear this perspective and the counter perspective, and if you can't pick between different perspectives, that's how you become mind controlled, you know. So shout out to alternative media, man. Keep speaking. I know some of these, these platforms be trying to take your voice down, or, you know, control, you know, because you're on their platform. But just keep create more platforms. Just keep spreading the news, sharing the truth. And with that being said, man, the news is a scam. So with that being said, 5D Transformations is out, man. Peace.